There you are, Obi.
What were your thoughts on the movie, buddy?
There's the kitty. Hello, everybody. Today we saw the 33rd MCU movie. I think it's the 33rd. 34th? I don't know. There's a lot of fucking these things. But it's Deadpool and the Wolverine, which isn't really an MCU movie that much. But Aiden, what's the plot of Deadpool and the Wolverine?
Deadpool and the Wolverine follows up a 6-year absence of the Deadpool brand due to the whole Disney situation. The Time Variance Authority from Loki and probably some other stuff shows up and says, Deadpool, you're under arrest because your world is going to be destroyed because Logan died. And he's like, damn, that sucks. So he goes and finds a different Wolverine, and they fuck around in the void and meet some old fan favorites. And by favorites, I mean all the people from the bad movies. And Channing Tatum as Gambit, which never was a movie, but was in production hell for like 10 years. And then they fight an evil female Professor Xavier who wants to destroy all the multiverses. And Tom from Succession is an evil Time Variance Authority guy. And they get in shenanigans, and Ryan Reynolds doesn't shut the hell up. Connor, what'd you think of Deadpool and Wolverine?
I think the other Deadpool movies, it's better than it should be, but it's not really something I look forward to watching anytime soon again. You might be mistaken in thinking this is Deadpool's grand entry into the MCU, and that is not really the case. Most of this movie takes place either in the Void or in the Fox universe. At one point, Deadpool does hop over universes using his little time machine thing, and from the second movie, and he talks to Happy Hogan as the first of many of multiverse cameo, and otherwise this is just the kind of the wrap up to the Fox X-Men movie. We've all seen the trailers and the set photos where there's a giant broken 20th Century Fox logo, and everybody's like, oh no, 20th Century Fox is no longer a thing, so I guess we are owned by Disney now. And Deadpool makes 3 million jokes in this movie and hits about 3% of the time, which isn't anything new. That's how the old two were. The story, I mean, it's not the deepest story. I mean, Deadpool has a chance to move to the MCU and become a Marvel superhero or whatever, but then he decides not to because he wants to save his world, and he's like, I don't really want to change worlds. So then he travels, and the second cameo happens, which is Henry Cavill as Wolverine, and you got a short Wolverine. You got all kinds of Wolverines and all kinds of Deadpools and whatnot, and then they travel to the Mad Max world, and it becomes a Mad Max movie for a little bit, just not very well done when compared to Mad Max. They're just kind of in a desert riding around, and it's kind of tame.
Then the cameo parade begins. Yep.
But he shows up as like, is he some sort of variant of Captain America? No, he's the Human Torch, and then Deadpool and Wolverine kind of dick around and eventually end up at the island of misfit superheroes. You got X-23 from the Fox universe. She's the real X-23, I suppose, or the one we saw in Logan. And then you got Elektra from the Ben Affleck Daredevil verse. You got
also starring Jon Favreau from this movie.
Also starring Jon Favreau. And you got Wesley Snipes as Blade.
Yep.
Channing Tatum as Gambit.
Presumably.
He wears sunglasses.
But he does say the ice skate uphill thing.
Yeah. I don't know if I missed anything else, but yeah, no, Wesley Snipes shows up as Blade, and they all go into battle with Professor Xavier's evil twin sister who got TVA'd into the void before the movies. I don't know. I think she's supposed to be like the main Professor Xavier's sister or something, I guess, and she got trapped in the void. I don't know. But they all fight, and then they go back to Earth, and there's a big MacGuffin machine where it'll destroy the world or whatever, and then they fight 100 Deadpools, which is what it sounds like. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, it's a cameo parade, but it has some really fun action scenes, which is, I mean, you kind of have to expect.
Yeah.
The humor is occasionally okay and occasionally really grating. The movie has a lot of emotional moments, most of which aren't incredibly earned. But it's kind of just a weird send-off to the Fox movies, since they produced every movie that's referenced except for Blade, which is New Line Cinema, but they just said, fuck it, we'll throw them in there. Because we have the rights to them, and Wesley Snipes has agreed to come back.
For some reason.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, like, meta jokes that, like, you have to follow the movies to get. Like, Ryan Reynolds makes, like, a wisecrack about how Wesley Snipes hated him on the set of Blade 3, which is true, and why
Yes,
Wesley Snipes famously refused to open his eyes.
Yeah.
And it's revealed that Daredevil, Ben Affleck's version of Daredevil, has died, and Elektra's like, it's chill, because that's her ex-husband, Ben Affleck, or whatever. They got Henry Cavill. It's a lot of
for this.
You got to do a lot of homework, but not in the same way as other Marvel movies. There's just gonna be some jokes that kind of fly over your head. It does kind of use the music to guide you through jokes, so you know a quip is coming, because like they'll be playing dramatic music and then it doesn't literally record scratch, but it might as well. And then Deadpool will say something stupid, and everyone's like, "Oh, Deadpool." And the audience laughed hysterically and was like throwing fucking popcorn and going crazy. Our audience was fairly mute because we decided we wouldn't go to like IMAX or one of the major theaters. We just went to like the first closest thing to a matinee showing they'd allow us to do on a Thursday.
Yep.
Which was the 5 o'clock in a standard digital. And it was busy, and there were some wisecracks.
Opie, what are you doing?
It was busy, and there were some wisecracks from the audience, but it wasn't a like a screening of the room where people were like chucking forks at the plastic fork spins at the fucking theater screen and all that shit. People were, yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say. The story's kind of fine. It's bittersweet having Hugh Jackman back, because you're like, they're just gonna fucking fuck his legacy, which they did kind of make jokes about. Wolverine is surprisingly passive, like every other cameo. Like, Deadpool's definitively the star. There's like a little subplot with Wolverine, and he's there for fight scenes and in his comic accurate costume or whatever, so people got horny over it. But
Yep.
it's really the story of Deadpool, where, much like the first two movies, there's like a kind of a softer core narrative along with the memes, which they don't really try to do in the comics, and somewhat manages to humanize these movies. But I don't know. There's not much to sink your teeth into. I did think Professor Xavier's sister as a villain was somewhat fun. I thought it was fun seeing Wesley Snipes and some of the cameos, but I don't think it had the same reverence as, like, Spider-Man No Way Home, where they kind of would play, like, dramatic music and try to trick you into thinking the Andrew Garfield movies were good retrospectively or something. I don't think Marvel cared, but the audience started being like, Andrew Garfield truly had the best Spider-Man movies. He's such a great guy. It didn't try to do that. It was just cameos for cameos' sake. I think, if anything, Marvel kind of played its last card in the cameo department. Like, okay, let's get back to the more real grounded stories. And I don't know if it was always the intention, but the movie ends with Deadpool, Wolverine, and all of his buddies back in the X-Men timeline, presumably to be dusted off for Secret Wars or the inevitable Deadpool 4 that'll probably happen in 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
And they put him back to rest. They put him in, conveniently could put him in the Fox universe, so you can kind of forget about him for now, which is probably ideal, because you don't want Deadpool narratively would be hard to keep around. It would be hard to get around the Deadpool thing if he was cameoing in every movie. Because I kind of feared they'd like put him in there and maybe he'd cameo in every movie like Stanley or something. Like they'd attempt some cringe like that or something. But
They still might.
they might, but they kind of just put him back in his spot and neatly wrapped him up with a somewhat attempting to be as touching ending. Of course, kind of undercut by just the concept of Deadpool, but it was fine. They put him back where he belonged, which is not the MCU, and they said, weren't those a lot of fun cameos? And hopefully they say, okay, we did the cameo thing in Doctor Strange, we did the cameo thing here, we did the cameo thing in Spider-Man, maybe we'll close the book on the cameos. I know we have
Optimistic.
2 Avengers movies where we'll surely get variants of every fucking hero and whatever, but for now, this was a solid, if a little, nothing special, but it was solid enough as a final farewell to the Fox X-Men. Not just Fox X-Men, but just Fox Universe and, I guess, fucking Blade too. So, it is what it is. The Fox movies are closed. They did a montage at the end to touching music of behind-the-scenes footage from back in the
Touching
day.
music, you mean Green Day?
Boulevard, or it was The Time of Your Lives by Green Day. Yeah, no, they picked the song, dude. They were trying to they were doing
There's licensed music every 3 seconds in this fucking movie.
this movie loves its licensed music. But yeah, I hope the cameos they can chill it, because this is what people wanted Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness to be, in terms of how they handled the cameos and stuff, and there you go. They did it. Now, stop. But I think this will only embolden fans to be more demanding about stupid fucking cameos. Because this movie's like, okay, we'll do all the stupid cameos all the fans want, and now they've done it, and just call it a day. Call it a day on the cameos. I'm sure we'll see all of these people again in Secret Wars and more, and then some. So, but yeah, it is the wrap up to the Fox X-Men universe, and it was moderately an MCU adjacent movie, and it was a thing. So Aiden, what did you think of Deadpool and the Wolverine?
Sean Levy has an incredible ability to make movies that have no style. This movie's flatly shot. 90% of it looks like it was shot on an 8-foot set. It's very flat and boring and tries to spruce it up with licensed music. A good portion of the movie, as you said, is just hoping people clap at the cameos. They see things that they recognize and they clap like a Star Wars movie.
Yeah. Except perhaps more obnoxious.
Although, for what it's worth, it was kind of funny seeing Blade come back. It's kind of funny that Channing Tatum finally got to be Gambit after a million years of that not happening. Elektra was there. Jennifer Garner was there. Nothing to say about that. It's a wrap up to the Fox movies and Blade. And there's a lot of cameos. It's kind of just banking on the fact that you find seeing old things from bad movies funny. And sometimes it is, but usually it's not. Deadpool's annoying as always. Nice Deadpool's annoying. Ugly dog Deadpool's annoying. All the other Deadpools that are in the movie for like 5 minutes are annoying. I like Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman does the Wolverine thing again, and it's a pretty different Wolverine, but he's still a charming man, and he's stuck being next to Ryan Reynolds for this whole movie, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But also, it kind of undermines the whole Logan thing that Hugh Jackman just came back because they gave him a fucking $1 billion.
Yep. Well, they tried their fucking damnedest to not do that. Where they're like, okay, the real Wolverine is definitely dead, so no audience member can possibly be confused.
Yeah.
Wolverine, we followed his dad, and then you're like, okay,
they dedicate a
fine.
bunch
But
of
then
that to the real Wolverine.
at the end, he just becomes the real Wolverine, and then moves to the Fox Marvel universe, and it's like hanging out with X-23 and stuff, and like, I'll be your daddy now that I'm finally back alive, but not, I guess.
Yeah. And I guess, Deadpool and Wolverine are sanctioned off to the little Fox universe so that they're not a key player in the Marvel thing, but
Yeah.
even so, the fact that these characters keep coming back is going to make it harder and harder for the MCU to do what it needs to do and establish the X-Men, because it's kind of the last thing they have, the last card they have to play before a reboot.
I mean, they're
Because
using
they've burned
the
through
X-Men.
so much shit.
They're using the X-Men a lot. The problem is they're not. They haven't used it. I mean, they've used them like X-Men '97. I've heard it's a decent show.
Yeah.
Who knows? But
They're not.
that's its own thing. You brought some of the X-Men into Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange, but those were variants, and now you have a lot of X-Men here. This is basically an Fox X-Men spin-off movie. Great. Now it's time to bring in the X-Men.
They have to actually establish the X-Men in the MCU,
I mean,
because I don't know what else they have at this
At this point, they're running low on stuff. It's about not fucking up the Fantastic Four, which, let's be real, the Fantastic Four looks tremendously boring with the cast they've assembled.
Yeah, maybe
And
they'll stick
they
the
have to do
landing
the
on the
X-Men.
Donald Trump Captain America movie. Maybe.
Yeah, the Captain America movie. The trailer's okay, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's a teaser trailer. They did a good job editing a hell of a trailer together, but
Yep.
that doesn't mean it's going to be good or...
Yeah. I mean, there's funny moments. I like the tiny Wolverine. One of the variants is the tiny Wolverine. There's an occasional funny joke here and there. It's occasionally funny to see some old people coming back, but it's a lot of grown-worthy cameos and references, and Deadpool being Deadpool. Once every 20 minutes, one of the jokes lands after 99 failures, and it gets exhausting. Sean Levy shoots movies like he's shooting a fucking Walmart commercial.
Yeah.
The fights are okay. I just really can't bring myself to care about Deadpool. It's a lot better than the last one. I was kind of confused because there's a major character in this one who's like Deadpool's friend, and he's some guy with a mustache. And I'm guessing that was a character established in Deadpool 2, a movie
was that
I
one
saw.
of the guys that was in the X-Force? Did he survive or something?
I don't know.
I don't remember him. No, I didn't
he's a
remember
major
him either. I
character
don't
in
know
the
if
movie.
he's made up. Like, they really might have made him up for this movie. I don't know. Is he like a fan of? I don't know. I haven't seen Deadpool 2 or 3 or 1 in a long time.
I don't think he's in the first movie, because I
He's
think
not.
in the first movie
He's not in
it's-
the first movie. It's
It's the blind guy and the Indian Uber driver.
no. There's the blind lady, the Indian Uber driver, and T.J. Miller. They just
T.J. Miller got retconned out.
T.J. Miller got retconned. They didn't even bother like Michael Baying him, where they just killed him off.
But then there's the mustache guy, and he's like a major character, and Deadpool's like, you're my best friend ever, and the coolest guy ever, and all the Deadpools love Peter. I'm like, I do not remember this character from the last movie.
I don't
do
know
not
if that's
remember
the
this.
joke where it's like, oh, we just made up Peter for the movie and everyone loves him, or
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I don't know if he's a real character.
All that being said, this is the best MCU movie in like 3 years, so that's
With the exception of
really
Guardians of
something.
the Galaxy
Guardians,
3.
I don't really.
You don't even have to count. But I mean, kind of like Guardians, though, this is like so just barely related. Like the Guardians 3, they're like, we're not touching any of your stupid multiverse shit. There's gonna be no cameos from outside characters.
Yep.
And this movie has a lot of cameos, but besides Happy Hogan, who briefly appears, no one really shows up. And I think that might be in part because they're like, well, he was in the Fox X-Men movies, so perhaps it's fitting because he's in Daredevil. Maybe Elektra too, I don't know. But, no, this is pretty MCU light. I'm sure like some of these TVA people pull over, but none of the characters people fucking care about
Yeah.
pull over besides Happy Hogan for 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's
5 minutes or whatever.
I don't know. It's certainly less unpleasant than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Yeah,
which
no.
isn't saying much, but
In comparison to most of what has come out since Endgame, there's like No Way Home, this, and Guardians 3 are the three that aren't unbearable, and all three of them... Well, Spider-Man touches on the MCU more, but as for like core MCU movies, there really hasn't much. This is more, I mean, I would consider this more in the Fox X-Men camp as a wrap-up than anything.
Pretty much. And Guardians 3 just elected to stop being in the MCU, basically, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great. I didn't really like it. Yeah. Connor, would you recommend Deadpool and Wolverine? Piss into the wind with this one, because everyone who wants to see it will, and...
Everyone who wants to see it has probably already seen it before this video comes out. As someone who watched all those Fox Marvel movies before the MCU started, because that's what we had, I think it's kind of interesting to see like proto MCU characters return to mixed results. The problem is your guide to this universe is Deadpool, who I found mostly obnoxious.
Yep.
I thought the movie was fine. If you want to watch a really dumb Marvel movie and you're nostalgic for the early 2000s Marvel movies, then you'll probably get a little bit out of this. It's kind of actually, I think, it's like an unrelated note, and in a lot of ways it reflects this. Jackass Forever. Because Jackass Forever is a real movie, but it's a bunch of old people that can no longer quite do it the way they did it 20 years ago. And then it ends on a sad montage of the set videos of Jackass past, and that's exactly what happens. This is the Jackass Forever formula.
Yep.
And if you go with it in mind that it's 100% nostalgia bait with a moderately fine story and really annoying Deadpool jokes behind it, 10% of which are funny and 90% are cringe. If you can bear the cringe factor, then you'll probably have an alright time like me. Thankfully, I was able to kind of phase out the cringe by like the halfway mark, and everything Deadpool said pretty much went in one ear and not the other. There's a lot of exposition, but it's a mixed bag, I guess. Sure, if you're a fan of Deadpool. If you're not a fan of like Fox X-Men or Deadpool, like if you're a fan of the MCU like passively and just want to watch the good ones, you can skip this. It's pretty much 100% contingent on you either being a Deadpool fan or nostalgic for the Fox X-Men or Fox Marvel movies.
And you have to know all the weird fucking shit.
If you're an autistic person like me and know all the weird lore, and a lot of the funniest jokes are just the awkward real-life lore. If you're really pleased by cameos too, even if you don't really actually care about the movies they come from, then you'll also have a blast. So those are the three categories I give it a yes to. And anybody else can probably just skip it because it's weird, confusing, and there's cool fights, but I don't think there's enough of a story there to sustain it for someone who isn't in one of those three categories. So Aiden, would you recommend Deadpool and the Wolverine?
I'm just going to go with what you said. There's a couple very specific groups that this is made for. And if you're just a person who wants to keep up on the MCU bullshit and you haven't given up somehow, this is not an MCU movie. It's just the Fox prelude, or the Fox like fucking epilogue.
Yeah.
For the MCU popcorn guzzling audience that hasn't given up after all the last like 5 movies, You can probably not watch this one. There's going to be a lot of people who watch this one happily because it's the Deadpool movie.
And it's the cameo movie.
Basically,
It's the cameo Deadpool movie.
Basically, what I'm saying is no, but that's basically just pissing into the wind because
Yeah.
we're not going to change anyone's mind about seeing the fucking Deadpool movie, especially not by saying Deadpool's an obnoxious character.
Yeah. No, we're probably just gonna get a bunch of dislikes on this video, or no one's gonna watch it.
Yep.